One. What's good, everyone? Coach D here. Welcome back to the Shift Method podcast. Hope y'all are having a wonderful day. And if I haven't seen you or you haven't heard from me in the last one, Happy New Year. Hope everyone had wonderful holiday season and, was safe and had a great time over the new year. It is 2023. This will be coming out on Monday. What would that be? 13, 14, 15, Monday the 16th. If you're listening to this, this is podcast episode number 34. Just some quick announcements and some updates. As always, you know that I'm having personal training services in person if you're in the South Florida area, specifically Boca Raton, Florida. And of course, if you want to get some online coaching, you can do one-on-one with me. Or let's say, you're trying to ball on a budget. You still want to get some interaction with the Shift Method, but that one-on-one coaching isn't exactly what you're looking for. I got you. I got those custom training plans that are available for you across 4 different goals. And so you'll be able to look those up. I'll have that link in the description if y'all want to check those out. Programs are 8 weeks long. They're $80. I think that's a pretty damn good price. But enough about me and what's going on. We're actually going to talk to someone today. This is a really cool podcast. And I know people are like, Damien, you always say it's cool. You always say you got a cool guest on. This is unique in the sense that we're going to be talking a little bit about fitness, but also in the sense we're going to be talking about photography and videography, because we're going to be interviewing my videographer. And that is Miss Myriah Troutman. Myriah, would you like to introduce yourself a little bit to the people, tell them about who you are?
Yes, so like Damien said, my name is Myriah Troutman. I'm originally from Reading, Pennsylvania. I moved down to Florida in 2016 to go to college in Fort Lauderdale at Nova Southeastern University. Played some soccer and got into photography and videography and, met up with Damien, and the rest is history.
The rest is history. And for those who are watching, if you're on YouTube or if you're on, Spotify, because I have the video setting on, you see Myriah's in her penthouse suite right now. This is what happens when you make the big bucks as a big time videographer. You too can have a 2-story, fully glassed out mansion. So just know that the sky is the limit in this field. Trust me. But all jokes aside, though, seriously, if for those who are ever wondering, I'm gonna, prop her up a bit because she deserves it. For those who are ever wondering, I get people come up to me saying, oh, your content has changed within the last 6 months to a year when I talk to them. And they're like, it looks amazing. What are you doing? And I have to be honest and say, it's her. She has been my videographer. We're coming up on a year, which is crazy to believe because it was February of 2022, I believe, right?
Yep, that's when we first launched.
Yeah. So she's been working with me for a year. She's helped my Instagram account, and my YouTube channel, which we'll talk about a little bit, and how she helps with that, and just overall my brand grow tremendously. And so she kind of takes all the pain and headache out of the videography and photography side and takes care of that for me. So for those who are wondering, who's the person behind it, this is her right here. So that's really cool. We'll get a little bit into the videography and photography side, but of course, like Myriah briefly mentioned, she does have a fitness background, and that's kind of how she got into the space and gets into doing what she does. So I'm gonna let her talk about it a little bit. So kind of go over, I always like to hear people's origin story, and even if it's not super glamorous, who cares, right? How did you get into exercise and sports initially? What got you into it?
I don't even know if it was, I can't remember, the certain instance of when it was like, yeah, I want to sign up for soccer, basketball, but I was always, that outside wanting to be active kid, and, signed up for soccer at a young age and eventually started playing basketball, ran cross country at one point for like a year or two, did track and field, high jump. And then I got really serious about soccer in like late elementary, early middle school age, and decided, I want to see what I can do with this. And I started playing for, club travel, how everyone starts out. And thankfully for me, it worked out. I went to a showcase in, I believe it was Richmond, Virginia, and I actually got spotted by Nova's coaches. And that's how, I ended up getting recruited, eventually went to a camp there. Things worked out. Ended up playing down in Florida. And then just being around weights, I took weights in high school, which was, a love for me. Just seeing your name go up on the board when you made like the 500 club. And, as a little high school, you're like, yeah, like I'm putting on weight. I'm getting big.
That's right.
And then, college, being a college athlete, waking up early mornings, being in the gym, like just something, how can you not fall in love with
Yeah,
the atmosphere? It's great.
absolutely. Now, what drew you to soccer initially? Was it kind of like a trial and error? Like you said, you were trying a bunch of different sports and soccer just kind of hit a spot in your heart for you? Or was it something that like it was in your family? Like what is it about soccer that got you going?
So my sister and I actually signed up. I believe it was the exact same year. She's like a year and a half older than me. Um, and we always had, never want to gloat crazy, but since you asked, we played on the same high school team growing up, obviously, and
Okay.
it was always that sister duel. We both played offense, so one Troutman passes the other, goal and assist type of. And I think it was that energy, even though I played basketball, she didn't. And so it was just, I think that bond started it. And I was a decent player, it was fun to go to games and have people, yeah, if you score a hat trick, we'll get you a new pair of cleats or, those little things
Yeah.
that build it up. And I definitely excelled more in soccer than I did. I was a natural athlete. I love sports, but definitely excelled more in soccer and devoted more of my time into that when I was young. And me and my pappy out in the backyard built one of those like kickboards. I don't know if you're familiar with those where
Yes.
yeah, so we built one of those out of like plywood in the backyard and it stood through, Pennsylvania winters and I don't know, 8 years maybe. It was up for a while. We took it down eventually because I got older. I stopped using it. I didn't
hmm
need a little kickboard in the backyard. Um, so I'd say that's probably, just gravitated towards it.
That's awesome. And remind me, were you a forward, midfielder? What was your position?
I I've played everything. I started when I was younger as like forward and midfielder. There was a point where, I was playing varsity, but we had a JV team in middle school and we needed a goalie. I'd hop in goal sometimes. In college, I played outside forward, never played midfield, but then I ended my college career as an outside back and splitting time
Okay.
as an outside forward. So I played a little bit of offense and defense.
Very cool. So you're the utility person. You do a little bit of
Yeah.
everything. Very cool, man. That is awesome. Now, being a college athlete, like what are some things? Because I think some people, when they hear the phrase college athlete, they think, oh, you just show up, you work out, you eat, and you just go about your day. It's no big deal. What was something that kind of like maybe caught you by surprise as a college athlete? Meaning like you had one expectation going in, and then you actually get to the college setting, you get to that extremely competitive level, and you're like, oh, wow, I was not expecting this. Like, what kind of threw you for a loop?
It's almost like you just said, not that like anyone wants that, college life where they go and they just, breeze by. You are still going, it's student athlete, student comes first. You're still going
Mm-hmm.
for an education, but it's like, professors know you're a student athlete, making up schoolwork and stuff like that. You hear that, you get by easier. And I mean, maybe that is the case somewhere, but at least at Nova and from other, athletes I've heard it's not the case at their schools. And when you're an athlete and you're you got a major that you're working on, taking 12 to 15 credits an hour, or yeah, 12 to 15 credits a semester if you want to graduate within the
Mm-hmm.
4 year range and not take a fifth year. Like professors aren't taking it easy, they don't care that you're hopping on a bus. That's a choice you made. So they're not forgiving in the sense that you have less time to devote to studying than a normal student. And then just think about the normal student, you're still
Yeah.
possibly working a job. Your coaches are actually, which big surprise, pushing you to be involved in extracurriculars. It's not just about
Mm-hmm.
your sport. And like I said, every school might be different, but Nova, our coach he wanted us in SAC, which is like student council for athletes. So for 3 years, I had a different position in SAC on top of, having a job, on top of being a student, on top of being an athlete. And it's like those things you kind of think, yeah, I'm going to go live this cool life playing a sport, traveling and playing games. And it's like, no, time management.
Yeah, absolutely. That's gotta be a difficult thing because I can relate to that. When I was a student, having a GA position or even just working in general, having 1 to 2 jobs and then being a student and then trying to balance a social life and with your family and everything. So adding that other layer, which is physically and psychologically exhausting by practicing early in the day, sometimes 2 a days, and then you got tournaments and travel, like that just adds a whole nother layer of complexity and time management, man.
Yeah.
And the other thing, so Nova, correct me if I'm wrong, is a private school, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I could
Private
imagine that.
non-for-profit, yeah.
Gotcha. I would imagine that it's a little bit more rigorous in some regards. So that's got to be kind of tricky because like other schools, maybe like where that I guess stereotype of like, oh, college athletes get to skimp by. Maybe in a private institution, it's even more like rigorous where it's like, we don't care. You're a student nonetheless. Like you got to go and figure it out and get your classes done.
No, for sure. They're big on, the one thing they advertise is the student to like professor ratio, very big on like one-on-one, um, the graduation rate and trying to keep that up. So they're definitely not gonna let up on you easy. Professors, they're gonna be on you.
Yeah. And now, correct me if I'm wrong. Are you currently doing some coaching for soccer at all?
So I was, now that I'm home, I'm on my little pause for that. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I was coaching with actually one of my former teammates that I
Mm.
played with for 2 years, 2.5 years. She has her own academy, and does some coaching, and I was coaching with her for 9 or 10 months.
Nice. Are you gonna go back to that when you come home, hopefully?
Yeah, yeah.
Very cool. What's that experience like going from athlete to coach? Like, was it kind of seamless transition? Was it something that you fit naturally into, or was it kind of tricky?
Definitely at first, it was not a seamless transition. I took 2 years, yeah, about 2 years off, just kind of took a pause from like soccer, like athletics, everything in general. Um, and, when I got back into it, it was one of those like it was almost a shock. Like, I actually don't know if I want to do this because it made me realize how much I did miss playing.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, and then, I fell in love with just seeing little kids, and they're not all little, I had some younger ones. I had some that were, older high school girls, but just seeing them like be in love with the game and wanting to get better and the time they wanted to invest, it made it worth it.
Absolutely. I can kind of relate I call myself a coach, but when I work with young aspiring coaches, that's also one of the most rewarding things is like seeing people who come with like they're bright eyed and they're like, I want to become a trainer and I have maybe some skills or some knowledge, but I don't have much. And then get to work with them and help them develop their sense of self and help them develop the skills to be a trainer. Kind of like what Joe does with Axiom Academy. Like that is a very, very rewarding experience, man. So I can imagine that feels good.
Oh no, for sure. It's, and anything where you're giving back is great work.
That's what we do it for, man. Do it for the people. Now I want to shift a little bit. So you finish your 4 years, right? You're a student athlete, graduate from Nova. Remind me again, real quick. What was your degree?
Psychology.
Psychology. So you graduate with your psychology degree. What happens after you graduate? Walk me through Myriah's life then.
So after I graduated 2020, that semester when COVID hit. So, things were up in the air. I wasn't sure grad school, where I was even going to be, if I was staying in Florida, if I was, moving back to Pennsylvania. And after a few months, I had a mutual friend that through Joe reach out to me and say, hey, I think this might be a great fit for you. I know these guys. I actually got my certification through them. I know you played soccer. I'm not sure what you majored in, but I also know you just graduated. I checked it out, and it was a very vague job description. Didn't really have much detail, but I was like, I need something, and it's in fitness, so let's give it a go. I interviewed for it, and got more detail on the job, and it went great, and I wouldn't change it at all.
That is awesome. And so at this point in time, now that you're working with Joe, did you already have like some kind of background in videography or photography? Was this like a hobby that you had growing up, or is it something that you picked up when you left college?
Nope, I picked it up when I got the job. Yeah, so I got
Wow.
taken on as a marketing specialist, and I was kind of initially just running the social media, email platforms, stuff like that, scheduling posts, creating posts. Um, and then, I got interested in creating the videos since I was the one posting them and doing so much. I had some ideas about, some changes or, things like that, and decided to pick up a camera, and I started attending the courses that, we put on the weekends, and doing some video work, and it's worked out for me.
That's crazy. See, I've known Myriah for about a year and I know a decent amount about her, but that part has either skipped my mind or I just haven't had the opportunity to ask because if y'all have seen her skills on YouTube editing, on reel making, on whatever kind of thumbnail design, it's phenomenal. So to think that this is something that she's only been doing in about a couple of years as opposed to not being a hobby she's had her entire life, that's pretty crazy, man. So I'm very excited to see how things trend over time as you get more under your belts. That's dope.
I have
So
to give a big shout out to you because like we've had this conversation before, without you, I think after, when I started with Axiom, I think that you were my first client that enabled me to start my own brand. And if it weren't
yeah,
for you, I would have had straight practice for, a straight client for a full year almost leading up on to give me some good practice.
I remember like it was yesterday. Johnny O's Gymnasium was having a like they called it an Oktoberfest. It's kind of like a house party at the gym where they had a bunch of fitness vendors and gym members and people in the community just come and kind of promote, drink, have a good time, listen to some loud music. And so Joe's table is promoting next to me and I'm promoting my services. And I saw Joe and his team. Myriah was there. I didn't know her at the time. And I was doing like some giveaways. I had like a shirt giveaway. It was like follow me on Instagram and tag me in a photo. And I had like a handful of people do it. I randomly selected someone and Myriah happened to win. And I was like, yo, I saw her taking photos and stuff. I'm like, you do videography or photography? And she's like, yeah, I do. And I'm using like InShot and I'm like trying to schedule my stuff. And it's just like so time consuming. I'm like, let me, I got some extra income with these clients. Let me try and hire you, see if we can get something working. And it's one of the best decisions I made in my company. So like that was, that's just how it is. You take opportunities that life throws at you and you make cool relationships. So that was a cool experience. And I'm glad that we got to build your business up a little bit through meeting each other.
Yeah, and shout out Johnny O's.
Yes, shout out to Johnny O's and Mr. Johnny Man. That is kind of my hub right now and where we get to make all the awesome content that we do. So we'll probably do some stuff at Focus too if we have time. But Johnny O's is definitely an awesome place to do it. Now, as you've kind of grown into videography and photography, is this something that I like asking this to people when it comes to like their job profession? Is this something that you're like, okay, I'm good at it, and so like I see this as a career, or has it kind of become a passion of yours where you're like, this really gets me inspired the way soccer did, or is it a blend of the two? Would you say?
I'd say it's a decent blend with the two. I definitely, I'm at a point where I actually, Joe is one of his other partners in Axiom. His name is Dave. He works more in the marketing behind the scenes with me. He's kind of been my mentor through the last 2 years, since or year and a half since I've been with Axiom now. And I just had a talk with him earlier about if I actually want to, go for an LLC and make things official.
Yeah.
And it's one of those I'm figuring out what I actually want to do. Because yeah, I go between content creation, social media management, some straight just like marketing techniques and strategies. I work with email, active campaign, ConvertKit,
Mm-hmm.
and trying to figure out what I actually want to focus on before I make any official jump because there's so much out there, there's so much I'm still working on before or working to learn about before I want to make an official jump into anything.
Yeah, marketing's a very vague term and it's kind of one that's changing quite a bit right now. Like I use a marketing team called PK Media. They help with like lead generation and they use an app to help facilitate that along with, we worked with them and provided content so they could produce the ad. So there's like the lead client email list generation side. There's the pure content creator side, right? Which is like the filming, editing, and like actual releasing of content. There's the management of said content,
Mm-hmm.
right? Scheduling, making sure that we're coming up with creative stuff to do constantly, doing analytics on trends and what's going on. So it's kind of like exercise science. Like it's a very vague term and there's a lot of different ways you can go.
You just brought me to a big realization, like as you're listing all that off and saying it's such a big term. And when people ask me, so what do you do? And I have such a hard time, like, I'm a marketing and I'm trying to say all these things, and I'm realizing as my business is starting to grow and I'm getting more clients, I can't be that business. I can't run the platform for them, draft up all the content, collect
Hmm.
the content, and have, you know, 10, 15 clients.
It's a
That's got to
lot.
be like a smaller client list if I'm running all of that. And, so then even that's a decision I have to make. All right, do I want to myself provide all services? Do I want to get to a point where, I'm like that and I have a marketing business where I have teams, I have a content creator, I have a videographer who goes out and gets content. Or, do I want to focus on just my own videography and photography and just do that? Do I want to just, run accounts? And even just because I love it all, so it's hard to pick just one to focus on.
Yeah. And but that's the kind of thing. Your business is in like the growth process where you're like you said, you're doing everything, which is good because if you're gonna manage something, you gotta at least know the basics of each skill, right? From filming to creation to releasing. So if you did want to go that route, you're like, okay, at least now I have at least a snapshot of like, okay, how do I train someone to do these things? How do I make sure they're done properly so the client is happy, et cetera? So it's nice that you're giving it some thought. Kind of like my final point that I want to ask you is, and if you don't know the answer, it's okay. But as you see your business continuing through the future, like where do you see it going, or like what skills do you feel like you're going to develop over time that you feel like you want to improve upon?
I definitely see myself gravitating towards more of like creating and like the creative aspect of things. I love copy and being able to tell a story and write to describe the creative
Mm,
work. But I think for me personally, I enjoy creating the content more. But one thing I don't work on yet that I'd love to dive into is getting more involved with Procreate and creating, more digital art and getting better at that. It's not something that I've really thought into and messed around with much, but I have Creative Cloud and I pay for all that,
mm.
shout out to Damien. um, but it's I look at other content creators and it's not just like, they're good at creating and editing their photo. They're also making digital art. They're in Procreate, and doing graphic design. It's not just photography. And
Right.
so, expanding into that creative aspect and trying to get maybe a little bit more away from, I guess maybe more away from like the social media management side and just into the content creation. So just building up all like the qualities that I'd need to really dive into content creation.
Now, when you say the creative side, my mind immediately, and people are gonna this is a very vague term, directing. Would it be like something where you could be creative? Like I follow these guys, they're called TMG. It's Cody Cody Ko and Noel Miller. They're comedians, but they also are tech guys and they're very, very smart. And they make a podcast where it's just like shooting the shit comedy. But then on the side, they also have content where they basically do like mini creative, comical, action based shorts. And so they let their creative side run wild that they can't normally do for like their business in these shorts where they'll do like an action sequence or like a comedy skit or like a fake scenario that's like very, very high production and very well done. So are you saying creative in the aspect where like you would control and direct things, or you mean like creative, like you said, in the sense of just like creating art and like modifying someone else's project?
Almost kind of like a bit of both in the aspect, like you said, creating, taking someone else's and recreating it. I follow a lot of YouTubers who they'll make like their own ads for stuff. I don't know if you ever see any of those. They might pop up on your TikTok
Mm-hmm.
every now and then.
Yeah.
They might remake it for like a flavored Coca-Cola or something, and
Yes.
they'll
Yes.
get like a cherry and a lime, and they'll make a cool interactive video. I have the green screen at home. I have the white and the black backdrop. I have different cameras and lenses. I have, you know, the colored lights. I have everything to make them. I have so many ideas. I watch them. I'm like, oh, like that's such a good idea. I see a box of cereal. I'm like, oh, this is gonna be so easy to do. But it's just actually like, okay, sitting down, like doing that stuff for myself to get to a point where, it's like, all right, it's actually like I'm at a decent spot where I can do something with this.
Yeah. Well, You might say you just need to do the damn thing, right? Just pick it up
You're
and get to
right.
work. Yes, ma'am.
Best saying out there.
That's right. She said I ain't gotta say nothing. That's how it is, man. Well, all right, man. Well, I appreciate you taking time to, obviously tell the people about who you are, but of course, help me expand our relationship, get to dive a little bit deeper into your life. So thank you so much. And again, if you want to find Myriah, where can people find you, your plugs, and if you got any services being offered right now?
Yes, so you can find me on Instagram at Myriah Troutman. It's spelled a little different, Myriah. Or my photography page is MT Photos 23. And right now I'm open to, I have a few spots right now for the new year for some new clients if you're interested. Like I said, I'm doing a lot of services right now, working on figuring out in the future. So things might be changing, but if you need any services, you're welcome to hit me up through my DMs and we can chat about it.
Yeah, I'll be sure to put all of Mariah's links. You can also catch Myriah in the gym fucking crushing it when she's back home. She works with me as one of my online in parentheses client. So yeah, Mariah's still hitting it hard, still in the fitness world, which is awesome. Y'all know where to find me. All right. We revamped the website. It looks dope. See, your boy does have some tech skills. He may not be as talented as Myriah, but he can make a pretty damn good website. So if you want to check out the revamped website, head to theshiftmethod.org. A lot of connections with, some interactive videos as well as some updated services. Again, links to those online custom training templates through Train Heroic. Again, they are $80 per program. You have access to it for an entire calendar year, and it's 8 weeks long. So please check that out. If you are interested, I'll put that link in the description. You can get some merch. We still got that. You can join my newsletter. It goes out every other week just to give you updates on major content. I'm thinking about starting up a shorter blog series so that way I can have some more written verbal content if you're someone who likes to read a little bit more as opposed to watch or listen to these videos here. But as always, remember too, if you like the podcast or YouTube, I have a new YouTube video come out every other Monday and a new podcast on the other Monday. So there's something new every single week that drops almost every Monday. So be sure to check that out. Myriah, thank you so much again, girl. I appreciate you so much. And I'll see you when you're back down in South Florida.
Oh, yeah.
Later, everyone.